So Nabeeha, your organization focuses on building sort of the right environments to scale up or replicate what's proven to be successful on small scale. So within this context of agriculture research and policy, what are the gaps, as you see it, that need to be filled, or the areas that need better attention given what you're seeing out in the field?
Yeah, so this is a big topic, Allison, and I'm going to focus on really three points more from a global perspective on what's going on or what's not going on. And the first one, aligns so nicely with what you said about we can't forget the people. So the first one is recognizing my sisters, is that we cannot talk about sustainable food systems and resilient food systems if we don't talk about women, if we don't invest in women farmers. Women farmers produce more than half of our world's food. And if you look at sub-regional data, about 50% of ag outputs in South Asia and 80% of ag outputs in sub-Saharan Africa are all thanks to women. Yet 60% of the world's hungry, they're women. It's a great paradox. We also have a tremendous ag yield and ag output issue, especially when it comes to women farmers. The FAO has reported that if women enjoyed the same access to quality agricultural resources that men did, they could increase productivity on their farms or yield on their farm by up to 30%. And that translates to a reduction in hunger of about 17%. So research and policies really need to be focused on enabling and empowering women so they can thrive, so they can profit, so they can stay, and they can be the best that they can be. Because as it stands, we're falling short. The second area is looking at the delivery side of things. These are things like supply chain issues, demand creation, access to seed, land, technology, awareness building, and other on-the-ground issues that really limit how successful we are in translating research outputs or how effective policies can be. Traditionally, development as a whole has been very much a philosophy of if it's good, if it's promising, build it and they will come. You've just said that as well. And I think the same has traditionally been true in the ag food space. We have spent billions of dollars on interventions, on finding great evidence, on building innovative responses to improve people's lives. Yet so many of them remain stuck in the lab or stuck in a test field, and it's because we consistently, traditionally have been build it and they will come. And we know that that just doesn't work. So as we invest in new tools, as we invest in new seeds, as we invest in new technology, we also simultaneously have to prepare the environment so that these great results and these promising insights can actually be replicated, can be adopted, can flourish in these environments. And we need to make sure that we monitor impact. Because it worked in the lab or because it worked in a test field, it doesn't mean it's going to work in a community. And maybe it will, but we need to see how this stuff works in real life. And if it's not working, we need to understand why. We need to understand what are the barriers. So as we shape research and as we shape policy, we have to keep the delivery piece of it front and center and make sure that whatever we're putting out there from a food, ag, nutrition perspective is actually accessible to those who need it. And my final point is this point around how research and policy really should support the scaling up of interventions, the scaling up of what we know we have, what we know has worked, of evidence-based initiatives. As Allison mentioned, I chaired the Community for Zero Hunger, which is a tremendous global initiative in response to the UN Zero Hunger Challenge that really was formed from a grassroots movement of some of the most brilliant people in food, ag, and nutrition. And as one of our tasks, we've been having consultations with hundreds of practitioners. I use that word broadly with individuals who are working, whether that's in policy or program or research, in regions that are disproportionately affected by hunger and regions that are also tasked with feeding the world. And in reviewing this feedback from these consultations, and it's still going on, by the way, we hear some of the issues come forward, such as we need better ideas on how we engage with communities. We need lessons learned on how we harvest and conserve water. We need insights on low-tech ideas and approaches to reducing post-harvest loss. We need thoughts and approaches on how we can improve breastfeeding rates. You know, how can we get moms to want to do it and make it easy for them? And the remarkable thing is that on these issues that have been, you know, kind of coming out from these consultations, we have solutions and ideas and insights in other places of the world. So we don't have to spend big money and big time reinventing the wheel on some of these fundamental things that are lacking, that are not accessible to the masses. So yes, we do need investment in better initiatives and better approaches. I'm not saying that we don't, but we also have to invest in scaling up what we know works. I want to conclude with something that the president of the International Fund for Agricultural Development has said, Dr. Kanayo Nwanze. And he said that development is not what we do for people, development is what people do for themselves. And I think this is so true and it's so important. Our agricultural policies, our ag research needs to be about building environments where food and nutrition is something that is not achieved by institutions or donors or governments. It needs to be something that's achieved by the mother who right now is putting her child to bed hungry. It needs to be achieved by the producer who is at the mercy of the middleman to get their food out into the food system. It needs to be shaped by people who are producing our food, who are feeding their communities. And the data and the R&D and all those things that brilliant people are currently doing are very important, but we also cannot underestimate and we cannot underfund this idea and efforts of keeping our eyes open, putting our listening ears to the ground, and making sure that we know not only what the data says, but what people are saying, because that is very critical in determining what we do, how we go about it, and what our path forward is going to be.
Thank you, Nabeeha.